Hello friends, I'm Brian, and this is Gizmo Board Games. And today, it's the first weekend of the month, so we're going to do my look back at last month. In this video, I just take a look back at the videos I produced in case you missed them, because YouTube sometimes drops you, even if you are a subscriber. You might not see every video, so in case you missed one that you might be interested in, I'm going to fill you in on the ones I released last month. On top of that, I'm going to talk about all the new to me games that I played in March and kind of rank them for the one I like the least to the one I like the most. Again, these are going to be based on minimal play, so they could change in time as I play them more or less, or whatever the case is that might move them up and down. But this is right now, after a first play or two, how I feel about the new to me games that I played in April of 2023. In this case, it's going to be a top 9. But before we get into those 9 games, again, like I said, I'm going to talk about the videos you might have missed that I produced last month and released to you. I had 7 videos that came out in April, starting with this very video for the March look back, checking out what I played in March. And if you want to check that out before checking this out, go ahead. That was the first video I produced last month. Following that, I released an Eating After Midnight short. I hadn't done that since, I don't think, January, where I was just talking about how do you want to store your games, whether they be horizontal or vertical on your shelves, and if you have an opinion, and ask for your feedback in the comments below on that. Following that, I ranked the Stonemaier games, and I did a tier list instead of the usual top 10 or 15 or 13, I think, in that case. I put them in a tier ranking list, and if you like Stonemaier games and haven't checked that one out, go ahead and see how I rank them against each other in tier form. After that, I kind of went away from the norm, and I didn't talk about video games so much as board games. I didn't talk about board games so much as board game adjacent, and I talked about how reality shows have kind of shaped my life as well, and some of the reality shows I really enjoy watching, and some of them I still watch to this day, to include this very day. So if you're into reality shows and you want to get my opinion on some of them, go ahead and check out that one. As the months start winding down, I started a new series where I'm planning on looking back at games that came out 5, 10, and 15 or more years ago on, in this case, the 3 and 8s. So I started with the look back at 5 years ago, that is 2018, and talked about the games I played and enjoyed, talked about the games I want to get my hands on still from that year, and some of the expansions, and just my general opinion about how well those games have held up against the games I've been playing today. It's kind of a cult of the old in a way. And I'll continue that series here in a few months, looking at the games from 10 years ago, 2013. After that, I did a short surprise kind of on a whim unboxing video of my newest game, After Us. It's right there if you want to check out an unboxing of a currently only available in France game, unless you're one of the rare few who've got it other ways or are able to get it delivered from France, like me. I've checked that one out here, and you might hear more about it coming up in this very video. And finally, I did a review of the game Monastery, a monastery building game, kind of a resource dice worker placement game, generating resources to help contribute to the monastery to get in-game scoring points. And if you want to check out my thoughts on that, go ahead and check out my review of Monastery. And that rounds out the 7 videos I produced last month, April 2023. So let's go ahead and look at the games I played in April of 2023. First off, I'll start with the stats. So in April, I played 63 total games. That's actually more than I expected. I thought I was going to kind of have a slower month, but I think May, I'm definitely going to have a slower month. I think I've got 1 game played this month, and it's already the 4th as I'm filming this. So, yep, I know I'm way behind in May, but I did expect to slow down as my schedule changed and the spring kind of rolled around, so that's not surprising. What's surprising is I did play 63 total games in April, which is more than I really expected, and 34 of those were unique games. Therefore, I played 1 different game on average more than every day in the month. And that includes the 9 new to me games, which we'll talk about here. And the one you don't care about is I played 8 repeats from the previous month, as I do some other content and look back at games I've been playing and enjoying. So there you have it, 63 total games. Let's get into the 9 new to me games from April of 2023. Before I get into that, I want to do one honorable mention, a game I hadn't had to the table in a while. I played it solo before the end of the year just to keep it on my shelf because I figured if I hadn't played it in years, what good is it doing on my shelf? So I did print out the solo play because I couldn't get it with a group and played that in December. But I've played it finally with a group of players, real people, for a first time in probably 4 or 5 years, and that is an old favorite, Five Tribes. I'm glad to have finally gotten this one off my shelf of untouched, and so long it had collected dust. So honorable mention to Five Tribes finally coming back off the shelf after years. Still a really enjoyable game. I'm glad I got it back to the table. Now let's get into the top 9 or the 9 new to me games in order of preference if I were to pick them off the shelf again right now. However you want to look at it, and again, this could change with more plays as future goes on. This is just my spur of the moment. How do I feel about these games? Starting with number 9. This is a small box game by Oink Games, my first Oink game. I heard a lot about it, and it goes along with my trend that I mentioned in the After Us unboxing video, as I just like apes. So when I heard about Durian, I went ahead and bought it. I played it a couple times at 2, just at 2, so that's like the minimum player count that you can play it with. But I don't see it changing a whole lot as the count goes up. It does play to 7 though, so I do want to try it with more players. But basically it's kind of a logic puzzle mathy game where everybody's got one card that they don't see, the one in front of them, and then you can see everybody else's cards, and you're just mathing out the ingredients and the brother and sister apes. That might change up the play a little bit. But you're trying to play one card and not bust from the total of all the ingredients that you can see, or plus the one you can't see. It's all right. It's just kind of a math logic game. Doesn't hold a whole lot of strategy more than that. And you can kind of count out if every card's got a 3 or 4 fruits on it, unless you happen to have one of the 3 ape cards. You can pretty much math out when a bust is going to occur based on what you can see. So not the greatest game, but it plays quick and easy to teach, and I could bring it to the table with 7 people for a nice little filler game, and it's got some apes or some gorillas really on it. So wasn't bad, but not the greatest, and that's why it's here at the number 9 spot. The number 8 new to me game that I played in April is Arkham Horror, the card game. And I'm going to start off by saying I'm not a real big Cthulhu fan. I don't care about that IP. I do like, and this is true of every Cthulhu game I have played, the health versus the sanity track. And if either of those goes, you're out. That's a neat thing that you're not tracking one health resource, if you will, but 2. So I enjoy that aspect of all the Arkham Horror style games. But they're just not my cup of tea in general, and they're generally too random and too hard. And the Arkham Horror, the card game, wasn't that complex, and it didn't really hurt you for bad luck or whatever. We were able to play through the scenario, just the basic game scenario, and maybe some of the expansions add new things to it. But it just wasn't for me based on the IP and just the sheer randomness of what you're able to do from the cards that are coming out and how they're coming out and the timing of them and your resources. I had built for one ability with my character in one of the games, which was not the ability to fight, and then I immediately got a beast latched onto me that I couldn't fight off, and it killed me in one of the 3 scenarios that we played, and I felt like that whole hour of playing was just a waste of my time because there wasn't much I could do about it without the others managing to come help me, and they couldn't really do it either because this big beast came out on the first turn. And so nobody really had the defenses built up to do anything about it, so they just kind of let me die off so they could continue doing what they needed to do to beat the scenario. So yeah, just too much random bad luck for me in a lot of the Arkham Horror games. So I didn't enjoy Arkham Horror, the card game, that much, but I am willing to step into it because it was okay enough that it's not a completely, I'm never going to touch it again type game. It's just not my cup of tea type game. All right, the number 7 new to me game from April of 2023 is Beast. I got this from Kickstarter. It's a 1 versus mini game where one person's the beast and the others are the hunters. And depending on the scenario you play, generally the hunters are going to try to kill the beast, and the beast is either going to try to last long enough or achieve some other objective before they get killed off, or before the time limit ends determines who's going to win the game. If, after 3 or 4 rounds, none of the objectives are met, then either the hunters or the beast, depending on the scenario, are going to win the scenario. And it was okay. The first couple plays, I felt like it was way too heavily favored for the hunters, and those were at 4 players, and the 3 hunters were able to easily corner the beast, and the beast had no chance at completing the objectives in either of those plays after 3 days. And basically, we just forfeit because it was the last day, and they still had to get 5 villagers killed with 1 attack card in their deck. And that's my main problem, is all your actions are resolved by a draft, a card draft. So yeah, you can lock out abilities from each other if you're lucky enough to have that chance. Unfortunately, in 1 versus 3, 3 hunters are able to eat up all the beast attack cards before the beast ever has a chance to see them. Therefore, the beast has a bunch of move cards, and that's all they're going to do for the whole round is move, because they can't do anything else. And you need to attack in order to build up the rage, to upgrade, to do the things, to be able to, advance in the later rounds. And if the hunters can just hoard all your ability to do those things, then you're not going to do those things. And that's kind of the way the first 2 games played out. The third game I played was in 3 players, and that felt like the beast had the upper hand and the hunters were the ones struggling. And it was just a weird dichotomy that it felt more even at 3, but it still felt imbalanced in this way towards the other side, where the beast seemed to have all the powers and abilities. And this is outside of, like I talked about the card drafting. Just the scenario favored the beast in that all they had to do was survive. It was the scenario where the beast just had to live. So the beast could just run away and hide in the dark and attack as needed, versus the other scenarios where the beast had to constantly attack and constantly show the 3 hunters where the beast was, and then the hunters could just corner the beast and keep them from being able to do anything. And so the game, it just wasn't that fun. It was fun in the first couple rounds where everybody's still feeling each other out. But once it got to the point where it was inevitable how the game was going to turn out, there was really no drama, and we still had to play for another couple rounds, i.e. another hour or so, with a pretty much known end state. And so that took a lot of the fun out of it, halfway into the game. And that's true of all 3 of the plays, whether you're the beast or the hunters. And both of our all the plays, 4 favored the hunters and 3 players favored the beast. So it's an okay game. I'm willing to give it another try. Probably not at 4. 3 did at least feel like it could have gone either way for a longer period of time. So I'm willing to play it again at 2 or 3, but I don't think I'll ever pull it out at 4 again. My 6th most favorite game that was new to me in April of 2023 is the aforementioned After Us, right there. It's a deck kind of building, engine building from the cards you draw. Each round you're going to draw 4 cards and then play them in order to line up the abilities on the card in the way you want to activate them. They're going to activate the top row, the middle row, then bottom row, and you're going to generate resources in the top row and then turn resources into things in the bottom 2 rows, basically. And it's a race to 80 points. And then at the end of each round, if you have enough resources, you can buy new ape cards and potentially mill out some of the cards that you started with, depending on how your resources remain at the end of the round. And I enjoyed it. I played this one just solo, and it's fun. The solo ramped really fast for the opponent, so if you don't ramp just as fast, you're going to fall behind, and that's what happened to me. I started out way ahead, but then I didn't really ramp, so I was only getting 5 to 10 points each round, and the AI was getting 1 point in the first round, then 3, then 5, then 10, then 15 or whatever. So they just ramped way past me and won pretty handily in the one game I played. I can see this game eventually kind of getting samey. Like, there's only 4 types of apes you can get in your hand, and they each kind of focus towards one type of resource. There's only so many additional actions you can use in each game. You only play 3 of, I think, the 7 of them to the table each game. So eventually you're going to kind of see the same things happening from game to game. I can see that already. But I do like apes. I like the theme of the Planet of the Apes, even though this doesn't really feel the theme at all. Again, it's just you're laying cards out in the order that best make the engine work for you in that round. But they do have pictures of apes on them, and the very, very tacked on theme of Planet of the Apes. But I enjoy it still enough for it to fall right into the middle of what I played in April. The number 5 new to me game from April of 2023 is Hadrian's Wall. I've heard a lot about this game from Garphill Games. A lot of people really enjoyed it. I think it came out in 2021, and it's been the talk of the town for flip and rights style games, which also used to be the talk of the town a lot more in the last couple of years. So maybe these two go hand in hand. But I finally got it and played it, and it's a lot more complex than I would really want for what it is. It's good. It's good. Don't get me wrong. It's enjoyable. I like the puzzle of it. For flip and right, it gives you a lot of thinky bits, and I think that's kind of where I kind of stray from it. If I'm going to pull out like a roll and right and a flip and right, I kind of like just a quick, get what you get type of game that, is over relatively quick. But this was a big Euro thinky, how am I going to best manage the resources that I have and do the things I want? Not to mention, it's a flip and right, but you're only flipping one per round, and then you're playing the whole round out like a Euro game on paper, and it's fun. It's enjoyable. It's right here at 5 for the new to me in the month, so I'm not saying it's not a good game. It's just not as good as everybody had hyped it up for the 2 years I've been kind of having my eyes on getting this game, to the point where I think it was overhyped, and that kind of brought it down for me. By the time I got playing, I was just like, yeah, it's good, but it's not great, and it's longer than I would want for what it is, I think, is my main problem. So I just didn't like it as much as I wanted, and that's about it. I feel like I'm only going to play this solo. It doesn't have to play solo. I think you can play it to 5 or something. But it's another one of those games that I don't want to try to teach to anybody else because it's just so complex. Yeah, I'll play with other people who know how to play the game for sure, 100% in a heartbeat. But my copy it's going to be a solo game for me, and there are just other games I'd rather pull out over it. And that's kind of my thoughts on it, and that's why it's here right in the middle of what I played in April. Number 4 new to me game in April is an older game, a game I've had on my shelf probably for a year because I've been there and I just wanted it kind of as a souvenir of my time in Europe. It's Porta Nigra. It's literally 40 minutes up the road from me. I've been there numerous times. Roman Gate. And the game is not super themey. You're building up the 4 different sections of the town of Porta Nigra. I forget what it was called at the time. I don't think that was what it's called. It's now called Trier. I'm trying to remember the Roman name it was called. But basically, you're getting 4 different color of tiles that you're going to place and to help build the 4 different major buildings. The Porta Nigra, I think the cathedral, the wall, and something else in the town. And, depending on how colors are played, how many you play, you're stacking them up. You're using a hand of 9 action cards, of which you're going to draw 2 or 3, I think, at a time, and just pick one to play, pick one to play, pick one to play each round. It's a tight resource management, action management game, and those are the type of games I enjoy, so naturally you're going to know I am going to enjoy it, probably, if it's that kind of game. Action selection, resource management, I just enjoy those. I enjoyed this one. Me and my buddy Ian played it. I think it was the last game we played before he left town, and I don't know when the next time we'll get together to play games is, but that time will come. I know it. But we both, I think, had a good time, and it was a really tight game between us. I edged him out in the end by playing into the Porta Nigra a bit more than he did, so maximizing those points. But it's a good little Euro game that is only slightly thematic, I guess, but it offers a lot of resource management and action selection choices. And if that's your type of thing, you might as well check this one out if you haven't already, Porta Nigra. All right, the number 3 new to me game from April 2023 is probably the oldest game I've played. I actually have to look. I guess chess might be older. I don't know. I played chess. I don't really consider that a board game, but I guess technically it is. And this one, I'm not sure I consider a board game either, but it technically is. It's on BGG. It is Cribbage. I finally got taught Cribbage. I've heard a lot about it. I think my buddy Ian's top 2 or 3 games from our top 10 list we did together a couple months ago. And he's not the one who taught it to me. Somebody else did. But I got to play it, and it was really enjoyable for a little card game where you're kind of mathing out card play to generate points depending on how the cards play. And if you haven't played Cribbage, I recommend checking it out. It's an oldie, but a goodie that definitely stands up, and I enjoyed it a lot. That's why it's my number 3 game from April. The number 2 new to me game that I played in April is Vinhos. It's my first time ever touching a Lacerda game. These big, heavy Euro style games where your action is very minimal. You're only getting, I think, 12 actions in the whole of the game, if I'm right. 6 rounds of 2 actions, yeah. And at the end of the first 3, and then 5, and 6 action, you're going to go to the wine fair and score points at that, as well as try to generate points and resources through the game. Building new wineries and vineyards and everything. I like the wine theme. I do like wine myself. It's just what was offered to me. A very hard Euro game. I only played it solo so far. I could see myself teaching it to others who could kind of handle a heavier game without a problem. Enjoy it. I have the 2016 edition that has both the old rules and the new rules. I only played on the new rule, where the money's not as complex and the game itself isn't as complex, but it was still pretty complex and enjoyable, and I liked it a lot, and I can't wait to play it again because, yeah, it's my kind of game. Again, the resource action, minimal action selection, resource management, and trying to just outsmart and plan your moves. And finally, the number 1 new to me game from April of 2023 is another Garphill game that I have been highly anticipating. It was my number 1, I think, anticipated game coming out this year when I did that list. And it's Legacy of You, the solo-only game where you're managing resources and trying to beat the Flood and the Barbarians before you lose to the Flood and Barbarians. So it's a really good thinky piece. It's a mini campaign, so you're going to play up to 14 or 13, I guess, times, because once you win 7 or lose 7 of your games, that's it. That's the end of the campaign. So it does have some replayability, but you're going to see about 60% of everything in one playthrough. I haven't got more than halfway through the campaign yet, but I've been enjoying it. And whether you win or lose, you're either going to get harder or easier for your next game. And as the story progresses, different story beats are going to make things maybe harder or easier as you go. And those differences are going to be different for each player, and whether they come out or not, the order they come out and how they happen, etc., etc. So I feel like I could play through the campaign again afterwards, although I'm not sure how much, once I get kind of used to what's going on and know kind of what could come out, if it's going to be ultra replayable. But even if I only get 14 to 20 plays of it, I think that'll still be worth it as a solo only game that provides a lot of think space, worker placement, and resource management, and just trying to outgun the bad. So it's kind of a co-op game, but only for one, and multiple ways to lose, one way to win, and I just enjoy it. It's my kind of game. And so after kind of giving Garphill a little bit of the downplay on Hadrian's Wall, I'm going to give him a big thumbs up on Legacy of You. I enjoyed this one a lot. And there you have it, the top 9 new to me games from April 2023. And let me know in the comments below what you played and what you think of these games that I played for the first time, whether you liked them or not, how they rack and stack against the other games on my list perhaps. And yeah, that's what I have for you and my look back at last month. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe below. And I will catch you next time. Bye.